How is everyone doing tonight? I just figured we would start. Started a little early. I'm not saying we're going to be answering any questions just yet. I just wanted to get the live up and going. I was going to be doing this on YouTube, but the cool thing about YouTube is like 2 days ago, if you've never done a live before, you have to sign up for a live. 2 days ago, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to live stream. Thursdays when I have it planned, I signed up for it. They're like, oh, we'll get back to you in 24 hours. Well, 24 hours have gone by, and now it's 48 hours, and they still have not approved me, so we're doing this one on Facebook Live. So we'll see how this goes. If it goes well, I'm not doing it anymore. I want to port them over to YouTube. That way they can be saved and they can be viewed again for anyone who has who wants to go back and like view the questions and things like that. All these are going to be rough, so it is what it is. If at any point anyone has any questions, more than welcome to holler out. Alright, I think I got everything. I'm gonna be doing a little repotting while I talk to you. Oh, we got 3 people. Oh yeah. Yeah, it was Invisible Man vibes. It's about to be Invisible Man vibes again, because I've got someone coming to pick up fruit fly mix, and I totally forgot where I put it. So I can't remember where that was. It's here somewhere. I know I remember seeing it, but I don't know. Invisible fruit fly mix, I guess. So at some point I gotta pot these dahlias up. Probably be tomorrow's thing. Yeah, it's here somewhere. The whole thing, everything's just kind of a jungle. Everything's growing in really fast, so it's kind of nice. Matty Matt, what's good, brother? How's your summer been going? Now, we live close to the road. Can everyone hear me all right? Is there not that many diesel trucks driving by, running their Jake brakes all the way down the hill? So fingers crossed. I will be back this fall for a little bit. I'm gonna be up there guiding again this year, which is gonna be sweet. From all reports on the lake, it sounds like it's gonna be a really good year, so we'll see how it ends up turning out. It's always hard to tell. Always hard to really tell, but the guys on the lake are crushing fish, so that's a good thing. Looking forward to it. I won't be up there as long this year because the corporate event I usually do, the 3-week corporate event, got canceled. So thank you. You can just set it here. He'll be here to pick it up. It got canceled this year, so 3 weeks of work is not here. So, but next year they said they're going to bring it back, so it'll be nice to see old familiar faces. We're starting to get some more people in here, which is awesome. Sounds like there was almost a car accident. Woo! So one of the things I'm seeding while we do this tonight is I'm going to be seeding some Cosmic Crimson lettuce mix. It's a fantastic mix. I love it. They're pelleted seeds, so it's a little easier to plant in individual cells. Super good lettuce mix. Grows really fast in cold weather and hot weather. I try to always keep lettuce plugs on hand just in case. Get like an aphid overdose or what have you. Looking for small terrarium plants for my crested gecko enclosure. Well, we do have them. If you want, you can check down at the Peddler's Mall. We have a few plants available there. But we will also be in Charleston this Saturday, and you can swing out there and we'll have a larger assortment with us then. I'm trying to get the Peddler's Mall set up to where we have more of a selection, but the problem right now is we're trying to use the Peddler's Mall to build the Peddler's Mall, and it comes like every month or 2 months, or I don't know, I forget what the how the transactions work there, but as soon as that comes, we'll be able to kind of set up more tables and, you know, have more of a selection there. But we do have, or I should say, we will have a decent selection this Saturday in Charleston. Hopefully that helps. Whew. Man, it is June and it doesn't feel like it. Yeah, I mean, you really don't want to repot right away. Either if it's going to be from us or it's going to be from someone else. Your biggest problem is inflammation. So that plant's been growing in a specific environment. Oh, am I back? I'm back. Internet, gotta love it. So, just to recap, I was saying, Franny asks, I just bought a new plant today, and I have a really pretty pot I want to put it in. Can I repot it right away? The short answer is no. The main reason is because that plant you purchased has been growing in a specific condition for a good long while. You know, it could be 6 months, it could be a year. It all depends on what the plant is itself. And for pretty much what you're doing is, if you take that plant home, you're introducing it to new conditions. And if the plant is not as hardy as some other varieties may be, let's take a Calathea for an example. Calathea is a little bit of a troublesome plant for a lot of people, but repotting it right away after it's been growing in, say, greenhouse conditions for 6 months, you're really going to struggle on it. So let that plant acclimate to your room or your porch or wherever you're going to put it for at least a month, if not longer. You're going to want to wait to see new growth off of the plant before you start to repot it, and then you should be good to go ahead and repot it. Another thing, make sure the new pot that you have has drain holes in it. I see a lot of these like fancy designer pots out there that are just pretty much bowls of water. Like, people water them, your plant ends up rotting out from the bottom, and, you know, unfortunately you end up killing it. Root rot's a pretty easy one to take care of. Just keep the soil dry and just make sure everything's not sitting in water. Yeah, that was a good question. We get that one a lot. Starting to get some more people in here. Woo woo. Oh yeah. Who's all joining? I don't know if anyone's noticed, or if it's been too far up y'all's way, but the elderberry is starting to bloom down here, which is phenomenal, and it is an insane bloom year. So it looks like the crop's going to be. Do you think plants like warm water or cold water more? So that's actually a really interesting question, John. When I was in 6th grade, I actually did a scientific study on temperature of plants, temperature of water to water on plants, and I found that, say you go to your faucet and you turn just your cold water on, and then go right to your plants and water them, that actually continues to keep putting them into a shock. What's up, Will? How are you? So that puts them into a shock. Obviously, not many people are ever going to boil water to water their plants with, but what I have found, at least through my experiments, and this was with sunflower seedlings, is that if you allow the water to warm up to room temperature, or if you set your faucet settings to somewhere around like your room temperature then it seems to benefit the plants the best. It's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's just perfect conditions for them. And what I think that has a lot to do with is how that plant is already growing. You know, if you set it, say if that plant is growing in 50-degree temperatures, you know, it's going to be slow anyways. Those roots may not overreact to getting watered with 50-degree water because it's used to it. But if you have a plant, say, that's, you know, growing in a terrarium that is always at 96 or 96 is extreme, 80 degrees, but then you take, you know, 43, 45, 46 degree tap water and you go to water that plant, it's going to put it right into shock. So typically room temperature, or, you know, just let it sit out and acclimate, is your best option. It doesn't have to be for super long. Usually after like 6 hours, water will warm up enough. Or if you're really good at guessing it with your finger, just get it close. So we're down in, Matt, we are down in West Virginia now. I don't have the accent, but apparently where we grew up in Ohio, did not grow up in Ohio, in Oswego County, we were just flatland hillbillies because we seem to fit right in down here with the hill folk. Getting a few more people in here. How's everyone doing? Woo. So this is the first installment, and it's honestly really cool that you know, we've got 6 people in here. You know, I'm excited about that. You know, this is I'd like to keep doing this. You know, we get asked a lot of questions through Messenger, and we get asked a lot of questions like when we go to shows and stuff, farmers markets. But I figured if I can answer them collectively, then that gives anyone an opportunity to go back and kind of look at some of the questions I've answered, and they're able to you know, kind of go back and use this as like an educational archive, I suppose. Well, the best store for potting soil, you know, I would say, you know, the best store for potting soil is going to probably be what your budget allows. You know, that's it. I would always say support your local garden center. You know, there's always a big box store on every corner, but there's not many mom and pop garden centers anymore. But I do know, especially now, like, there's a lot of scarcities. Pine bark's being harder to find. Peat moss is getting harder to find. So the price of potting soils, garden soils, all that, any amendment really is just kind of going up. You know, there's specialty stores that do have cheaper prices than, say, what your big box store would be. So really, I would say, like, if you're potting philodendrons, if you went to a more philodendron specific store that's more oriented into those types of tropicals, you would probably find a mix that they would make, or something that would be cheaper. Excuse me. That would be cheaper than going to a big box store and getting it. I will say there are a lot of decent soils at big box stores. You know, if you don't have a mom and pop shop, there's some decent soils that are good base layers to start with at big box stores. In some of our YouTube videos, some of you might have seen, we use like a Stay Green vegetable and garden mix. It's a pretty decent mix as a base layer. We add like pine bark mulch into it, compost, and a couple other different things to really lighten it up and actually make it viable for more long term. But you know, if you want good plug and play soil, you're usually going to pay a little bit for it. So I wish I could give you like a true store, but hopefully that helped out a little bit as to like what direction you might be able to go in. You're welcome. Yeah, what are you potting up, if you don't mind me asking? If no one's tried the Juneberry yet, it's actually pretty good. Was it June 15th today? That Father's Day is almost coming up. That means the opening day of bass season's coming up. Japanese maples, nice. Japanese maples are gorgeous. I love Japanese maples. I remember my mom getting one for our side yard, and it's 16 Bloodgood, I think the name of it is. It's super vibrant in the fall. It's a gorgeous tree. One suggestion I would give you for trees, if you're keeping them in pots, like if you're gonna bonsai them, obviously there's a specific soil for bonsai. You can make a decent bonsai mix DIY, but in all honesty, like Akadama is like phenomenal. It's high dollar and you're not gonna be able to find it locally. But if you're not bonsaiing and you're just potting into pots, go with a barkier mix. It holds water a little longer, and it works really great for like long-term success when it comes to trees. Anything I can do to make sure they acclimate okay to going out and then coming back in. So depending on where you have your house plants growing in your house, like a lot of people, I always suggest east or west facing windows. That's usually your best. A lot of your tropical house plants are not actually full sun lovers, and you'll see them fade when it comes to sitting out in full sun. Your best bet is going to be taking them out if you get home after work, take them out for a couple hours, either put them in the sun or put them in the shade, and then bring them back in. Do this, every day, more or less, for a week or so, slowly giving them more sunlight. What this does is it kind of hardens up the leaves to getting and keeps them from getting burnt. If you don't really have time for all of that, find a place in your yard that may get like 2 or 3 hours of daylight, like good sun a day, and just put them out there. They will get a little burn on their leaves, but it's not severe enough to actually cause any long-term damage, and it's not going to actually hurt the health of the plant. It may cosmetically look, I guess, terrible for a couple weeks while those leaves are still on there, but overall it's not going to hurt your plant. You can baby plants as much as you want, but in all honesty, Mother Nature doesn't baby them. So if you can just kind of just give them something hard and fast, they have a pretty good time of acclimating and readjusting to those conditions relatively quickly. So that'll probably be your best bet. How far are we from Ashland? 25 minutes. We're not that far. So we're over like on the tri-state border, over by Huntington. So we're not that far at all. We have a booth set up at the Peddler's Mall here in Huntington, which is kind of a nice spot to set up. It's on the west end over by the Wild Ramp. We do a lot over there too. But yeah, we're done. My mom actually just bought a house in Ashland, so she's pretty excited about that. Old Ashland. Another flat down. The weekend of July 15th. If I'm not mistaken, I think we have an event coming up on the 15th. What I'll have to do is I can check the books, and I'll shoot you a message, or if I end up forgetting, which happens a lot, what I can do is we usually post up on like our event not. Wow, my brain's not working. So what we usually do at the beginning of every month is we post our information as to like where we're going to be on our Facebook page, just kind of to let everyone know. I think we have something. The 15th rings a bell. I'm almost positive we have something going on, but I can't remember what. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but there's multiple other opportunities to be able to come and see us. We do a lot down at the Wild Ramp, which is when you cross over the bridge from South Point, we're right there at the Wild Ramp, so you can always come and visit us then. Right now, because we're kind of getting ready for like fall crops and stuff like that, everything's a little more chaotic than normal. So for the fall, bringing in plants in the fall, what I would do then is hit them with a little bit of insecticidal soap. You can usually mix Dawn. There's some ratios out there that say mix it like 1 to 4, which in all honesty is ridiculous. It's the only thing insecticidal soap does is it'll, or I should say Dawn dish soap, it'll be insecticidal soap. It coats the leaves, and it'll coat and kind of smother. It'll coat the leaves and smother the pests. What's up, Aaron? Yes, we do have aquatics and aquarium plants. We've also got some pond plants, primarily some natives. A lot of the aquarium plants and stuff we have right now are like Bucephalandra, a couple of Aridicea species, Cryptocorns, Anubias, mainly like epiphytic rhizomatous growers, but we do have some stem plants. But when you bring your plants in in the fall, just give them a good look over. You know, it doesn't hurt to spray them with some neem. It doesn't hurt to, coat them with the Dawn. Usually your ratios, you want it to be like 1 to 10 or like 1 to 12. You're welcome, brother. You don't want to overdo it, because the problem is like you're spraying soap on plants, and everyone thinks of Dawn as like, oh yeah, just like squirt a bunch of Dawn on a duck and rub the oil off it. But that's not really how it works. No one's throwing a bunch of oil-soaked ducklings in a dishwasher with Dawn dish soap. They're diluting the soap down enough to where it's not going to be harmful for the animals. Granted, Dawn full strength is a fantastic degreaser, but in like really strong applications. So dilute it down. I would say you could even dilute it down as far as like 2 or 3 tablespoons per gallon, and it would still be perfectly fine. And what you want to do is monitor. You bring the plants back in, monitor them, check to see, give them a good look over as you're bringing them in, and just determine what is in it. Typically by the fall, the pests won't tolerate as cold of temperatures as, say, some of like the tropical plants will. These plants are tropical, but they can handle down into the 50s, even the low 40s at night. Granted, they're not going to be super happy about it, but it's lower temperatures than what pests are going to like. One big pest that you can always get is ants. ants, and then another one is going to be termites if you have more of a wood-oriented potting mix. In those cases, there's like two or three things you can do. One, you can just do a full immersion soak of the entire root ball down into either a soapy water substitute. I like neem. Neem is phenomenal. I also use horticultural oil. It's a mixture of a couple different the oil's called Four Seasons. It helps across multiple pest species: thrips, scale, mealybugs, aphids, you know, all the common ones that you're gonna see while growing indoor plants and outdoor plants. But you can make up a neem solution in a 5-gallon bucket and literally just dunk the whole plant. Neem won't hurt the plant as bad as, like, say, soaking the entire plant in a soap solution. That would actually kill a lot of, like, your soil-borne pests if you do a full neem soak. Another thing is just to do an entire repot if the infestation is bad enough. So it really depends on, like, what the pest is. If you have pests, if you don't have pests, just do basic preventative measures of spraying. How do you kill scale? Oh, yeah, that's a loaded question, because scale is not an easy one to kill. But hopefully that helped with bringing tropical plants inside for the fall. But how to kill scale? Oh man! All right. So the problem with scale is there's like 3 or 4 different, like, prominent scale species that you see in greenhouse cultivation. There's only like a couple of them that you really see that become problems in, like, outdoor cultivation when it comes to, like, not really your garden crops, because they don't really attack those too much. And if you have a scale infestation on your garden crops, then there's something, then there's something that's like a bigger problem. But as for inside, it's just constant preventative measures. You can so what I do, like, because fall for us here, like, especially with bromeliads, we get really bad. We can get flare-ups of, like, California scale, which is like a blacker scale. It's got a higher ridge on it. But your preventative measures are going to be neem oil, horticultural oil, and Captain Jack's dead bugs. What I would do is I would spray every week for up to 4 weeks, get a good soak of the top of the soil layer, and then just watch. If you have, like, a heavy infestation, soak the plant. And I have a Hoya Hindu rope inside the greenhouse that I managed to bring back from a terrible scale infestation, because I soaked the plant for 24 hours in a neem solution and just smothered the scale out. Another thing, this time of year, it's warm enough to where you can put it outside. There's a lot of parasitic wasps that actually do, I forget the Latin name of them, but they do wonders when it comes to laying eggs in scale and then having the larva actually eat the scale from the inside out. For your larger adult scale, really one of the only things, like, once they harden up, it becomes really hard to get rid of them. You normally have to go through and just kind of kill them and selectively kill that way. But hopefully that helps. You can go a little more nuclear. I can send you some more information once I'm done here. There's a couple, like, big name, like, nuclear, I call it nuclear, but, like, heavy chemicals that will kill scale, but it kills absolutely, like, everything else too, so you really want to be careful. There you go, bud.
Not interrupt you, sorry.
You're good, brother. You're good. Whew. Hopefully your fruit flies like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, dude.
Keep on keeping on.
Oh yeah, brother.
Yeah.
Later. so I don't really mess too much with bonsai. It's a lot of, I don't want to say it's like a lot of dedication, but it's a lot of like work that I can't really justify like separating from like what little time we have. Just because there's a couple of like new bigger things that we're doing right now that are just requiring an absolute pile of work. I've done bonsai in the past and I've had an absolute blast with it. I have friends that do bonsai. I make a bonsai soil that works pretty well. I have a couple buddies that are growing like acer species, maple species in the bonsai soil, and they seem to be having decent results in it. What little I do mess with when it comes to bonsai, I have a Scheffalera that I bonsai, and I actually have a jade plant. So two relatively easy plants that, you know, I get to see a little bit more results in quicker than I do anything else. What trees are you what trees are you working with? So air layering, okay. Get those orbs. They're not a gimmick. If you're doing like an absolute pile of them, it might be a little pricey for you to get those orbs. But if you're only air layering a couple things, go and buy those like black orbs. I forget the names of them, but they're fantastic. Like the results on them are amazing. And the nice thing is, like, once you set them up, as long as you can get to them and water them and keep them watered, it's great. I would definitely use, like, if you're really into air layering, use those orbs. If the tree is too small and you can't use the orbs, so say you're trying to like air layer like saplings, you know, that have a diameter like the size of my finger or smaller, which would be, you know, maybe an inch. I'm being, I would say I'm being, generous with that. But if you're air layering with something that small, you can take sphagnum moss, and you can either keep it as long strands, or you can cut it up, which they would call that milled, to where it's really, really fine. Carve out on the bark and expose your xylem. Wrap the long fiber sphagnum moss around that cut, and then wrap that with saran wrap. That's kind of like your older school style of air layering. But yeah, there's that's probably the best option. If you're doing big trees, buy those black orbs that you can get for air layering. It's not a gimmick, I promise you. Like, they work phenomenally. They're just a fantastic investment. I will tell you, if the trees are small and you air layer higher up, they get heavy. So you're gonna have to either stake stuff up, or you're gonna have to, I would probably say stake up, or just let it dangle. But you want to be careful because it can snap on you. The tropicals are always fun to, tropicals, in my opinion, are always fun for like first time bonsaiers, because you get to see results a little faster. So like on the scale of like making mistakes and then going into like getting in deeper into like your junipers and your acers, which are a little slower growing, so your results are gonna like be expanded over years and not just months, where like some of your like ficus trees are, because they grow so rapidly. But tropicals are phenomenal. Like we grow a couple ficus species here, but we don't bonsai them. We just grow them out, keep them a little bit on the smaller side, but they're fantastic to work with. I just like the aesthetic of them overall. They're great. You can. So I've read and I've also watched that people have done both. I've done both. I can't really say that I've never really done a difficult tree to air layer, so I can't say that the rooting hormone worked well for me in this aspect and it didn't in this other aspect. Both of them, both aspects were successful for myself. So I would say with you, if you have the rooting hormone, go ahead and use it. It doesn't hurt. But if you don't, I would say that, unless it's like a really difficult tree to root, you should be all right with just having constant wet contact with substrate. That's really what a lot of these plants need. I think where most people fail when it comes to air layering is keeping the substrate and stuff wet enough. Because if you're doing it on trees out in an orchard or out in your yard, that can see a lot more sun, and with that being such a small amount of material, it can dry out super, super fast. And that can always be a problem. That's another reason why I was saying, it almost makes me sound like I'm sponsored by them. But that's why I'm saying those orbs are fantastic for that. I'm new to gardening and I want to grow some basics like tomato, basil, and parsley. Can I grow them together? They need to be planted in different beds. So tomatoes can always be one of those really tricky ones because they are in the nightshade family. But the cool thing about basil and parsley is they actually grow really well with tomatoes. So those would be companion plants. Companion plants are plants that grow well with other plants, and you primarily see a gardener needing to do companion plants when it comes to vegetable varieties. You usually don't see that much with planting perennials or trees or tropicals, but because a lot of our vegetables were grown and created over time, being bred and stuff like that, they do derive from plants that really just didn't do too well together. But the combination of tomatoes, the trifecta of tomatoes, basil, and parsley is fantastic. That's your pasta garden right there. That's your setting up sauces. That's your setting up your pestos. Those three you can grow together. Your one tip that I would always say to you is that your parsley is a biannual. So it's a tender perennial that can be mulched, or if you're in our zone, which is a 6B, 7 on a mild winter, it will come back next year. It will bloom, and then you'll have to replace it. So you actually get 2 years out of your parsley, but you're going to have annuals on your tomatoes and your basils. But all three of those can be grown together. Basils planted with tomatoes actually change the flavor profile of tomatoes. So that's a fun little fact. It actually makes them a little more flavorful and robust. Will, it was a pleasure talking with you too. Like I was saying earlier, I hope to do these every week. People voted. It's going to be Thursdays at 7 p.m. I'm kind of toying with the idea of calling them What's Growing On, so that way you can, anyone can come ask questions about, what troubles they have in the garden this week or things that they've been pondering for a little while. But I'm glad we finally got a chance to chat, brother. And it was good talking with you. If you, again, anytime you feel like shooting a chat, send me a message, or just wait until 7 p.m. on Thursdays and ask away. Now, I'm not too sure of the, time lag or delay that can be going on with this. I'm not 100% sure. I know my internet is actual dog water. It's because all the leaves. There's too many leaves, which cause the internet to not be good, from what I've heard. So I don't know. Maybe when there's no leaves, the reception will be better and there won't be a delay. But oh, I think I just blanked out for a second. Oh, I'm back. Okay, yeah. There was 2 new leaves that popped up on that tree I had in front of me. That's why I just lost connection. Just trying to back up what Verizon says all the time about why we have such poor reception. But yeah, this has been a blast. I've really enjoyed this. You know, I'm gonna keep doing these as much as I physically can. We do a lot. I'm gonna be planting some more lettuce. We do a lot of shows this time of year. It keeps us busy. Plus, we're trying to get ready for the fall season. But I do enjoy answering questions. So hopefully, y'all can come at me with as many questions as you want. You know, they always say no question's a stupid question. So ask as many questions. So you can container garden with vegetables. There's a lot of different vegetables you can container garden with. What I would say is, how much space do you have to work with? Because like things such as potatoes, you know, you're really not going to get much out of growing it in like a 1 gallon or a 5 gallon. You're going to get a decent amount of potatoes out of like a 20-gallon pot. But a 20-gallon pot is somewhere around 2 feet in diameter, or 24 inches. Whereas plants such as tomatoes and peppers and things of that nature do really well in 3-gallon and lower pots. So there's a lot of options. You can also grow, you know, gourds and pumpkins and zucchini. Pretty much you can grow anything in a container. There's just some things you have to pay attention to a little bit more. So like fertilizing, you know, it's easy in a large garden bed to just be able to fertilize once, and that takes care of the entire growing season. But because you have such a limited amount of soil for that root system to work in, you have to stay up on top and constantly feed, or else you start getting like malnourished plants, stunted plants. And a stunted plant, especially when it comes to a vegetable, hurts your harvest. So if you are growing in containers, be conscious of your space, the allotment of what type of vegetable you're growing, and the roots that they need to grow in, and also like nutrients and how demanding they are. Lettuce, I mean, you can literally just throw some soil in a pot and grow lettuce, and it's not going to complain. But tomatoes, on the other hand, if you don't amend with like a little extra nitrogen and fertilizer in general, then they're going to be a little bit fussy when it comes to producing enough fruit to make it worthwhile. You may get a tomato sandwich out of it, but that's about it. Plant some spinach. Let me hit Franny's question real quick, and then I'll get right to you, Will. Is there any way I can bring my potted herbs inside and keep them alive in the winter? You can. You'll need grow lights, which actually ties right into Will's question too. But that you can do windowsill, but really, in all honesty, you know, a lot of herbs don't really do the best inside unless it's under lights and like decent conditions. There are some herbs such as like rosemary, oregano, things of that nature that actually do need cold hours or chill hours. And what a chill hour is it's pretty much that plant's dormancy period. So a chill hour is the amount of hours a plant needs during a winter cycle in order to kind of like recoup its energy and come back stronger the next year. With a lot of your fruit trees, you're going to see that, especially here in West Virginia, peaches are going to be a big one for you. Some peaches do need chill hours, and they need a pretty decent amount of chill hours. So you're looking at like 450 to 400 chill hours. You know, that's last year we may have gotten some cold, but we were really close to hitting that. We weren't super close to, what am I trying to say? That 450 hours that we got last year was just like barely breaking it. So some of your herbs are going to need a dormancy like oregano. Mint definitely needs that dormancy. Mint grows like so fast and so rapid that if it doesn't actually kind of like take a break in the winter, it'll actually kind of like grow itself into like death. Unless you're just like nonstop fertilizing mint. But I mean, fertilizing mint is, you know, like it's like watering the ocean. There's honestly not really a whole need to do it unless you're trying to supply enough mint for the world. But yeah, most of your herbs, they really won't do the best even on a windowsill unless you have artificial lighting, i.e. grow lights. And then to coattail into Will's question, the grow lights that we use, I've been using them for a good while now, and unfortunately, I don't want to say unfortunately because it's fantastic that this company is actually getting bigger, and the lights are actually becoming popular because I've used them for years. Is Barrina, Barrina. They're an LED light. They come in 4-foot and 2-foot sections. You can connect up to 12 of them together off of one plug because they're not that big of a draw. You can get them right on Amazon. Last time I bought them, you can get 12 packs, 8 packs, and 6 packs if I remember. There's a couple different options, but I know the price has gone up on them, but they're phenomenal. I still have some lights that I've had for the last couple years. They're still going strong. I do have others that, they're about the same age, 3-4 years old, and they're starting to get a little off colored, but they put out 6500 Kelvin, which is perfect for what a lot of plants require. I would say in general, for a good like grow light, that's a decent light. You're not going to get much out of it if you're going to try to fruit or flower, but for vegetative growth, 12 on 12 off is going to be what you're looking for, and it'll grow some vegetative plants for sure. So what garden varieties has everyone gotten into the ground so far? You're welcome. Separating perennials. Ah, yes. So, a lot of, I don't know if, so the easiest way to separate perennials, for the most part, is to dig up the entire clump. As most perennials grow, they don't really grow, as runners. Say like bamboo is a really good instance of that, where it sends a rhizome underground and it'll come up somewhere over here, or it'll come up like over here or wherever. most perennials have a root system, and they grow from a root clump, and over time that clump produces more crowns. But the biggest problem is as that perennial gets older, the more crowns grow, those crowns start to choke each other off, and that will limit the amount of blooms that you get. So what you want to do is actually go in, dig up the entire clump. With a lot of perennials, you don't have to be super sensitive on it, careful with them. They're pretty durable. But dig up the entire clump and then break those plants up into individual plants and then replant them. What this does is it kind of rejuvenates the plant and allows them to kind of, no pun intended, spread their roots and be able to grow more, provide more energy to soak up the vital micro and macronutrients they need in order to bloom. Whereas things like hostas, and that's probably the best example, is where you can just take a shovel, literally stick it in the middle of hostas, and step down and break off a clump of the hostas. They usually call them eyes, and then just replant it somewhere else, and it'll regrow. But perennials are a little more forgiving compared to annuals. Annuals don't really like to be messed with too much once they're in the pots. Getting some veggies in the ground. Oh yeah, we're a little late on getting some of our veggies in the ground. Just haven't been able to get the time. Got a lot in pots though. Got a bunch of different stuff in pots. I think we're dealing with like a raccoon or two right now coming in and digging up all our pots in the night. It's not the most enjoyable. Not the most enjoyable indeed. I'll tell you what, so one trick, if you ever want to grow spinach, you can seed spinach all day outside. Your germination rates are going to be absolutely terrible. But if you seed spinach inside in cell trays, you usually get pretty close to about 100% germination. And they start off a lot stronger. It's just something about giving them that head start inside on a cell compared to sticking them outside. No, you're good. That's why we're having these lives, so that people can come in and ask questions in regards to, you know, what troubles they're having in their garden, or, you know, what questions they have in general. But how do I know how to prune fruit trees like apples and pear trees? So primarily your main time to prune is going to be in the winter, just before first bud. That's usually going to be your main key time to prune, when the tree is dormant. We're going to be putting out a video actually on it. It will be a little easier here. Let me see if I can do something. I got a tree over here. I got to stretch my legs anyway. Sitting all the time is kind of frustrating. So I'm going to try to turn you around here. All right. So here's the La Crescent plum that we have. Hasn't been doing really good. This spike here is struggling, but it's pot grown. So this year I'm just kind of letting it go crazy. This is going to be one of the new main stalks that I have for this plum. I hope this is easy to see. But next year what I'm going to do is, you know, I like this. This is going to be my trunk here. These side branches, these aren't really what I want, so I'm going to cut these, and I'm going to start forming this top here. Here, let me use the stick for an example. All right. So here's the stick. So here's the top of the plum here. When the fall comes, what I like to do is I like to do a hard prune. You know, a hard prune is not going to affect anything. If anything, what it's going to do is a hard prune is going to be like, oh, well, okay, so I'm not going to focus on foliage growth right now, but I'm going to focus on root growth. So it's actually going to make your trees a little bit stronger and healthier. But a good hard prune right here for your trees is really going to help. And it could be different in any tree really, but you're looking to kind of create this stronger canopy, but you're also looking to reinforce these branches here because these are going to be your fruit branches later on. You know, if you have a long stringy branch here, but you've only pruned off 6 inches, this is where your new growth is going to be, and this is going to be your fruit bearing growth. So it's not going to be as strong. Whereas you get a hard prune here, you get a nice, strong, older base to help kind of hold the weight of those trees going forward into fruit bearing years. You know, some years you can get away with not having to prune as much, but a good prune every year and in some aspect is always good for a tree. I hope that helped. I know it might have been a little bit difficult to see, but I actually have a video that I haven't edited, but we're gonna redo it this year because we have apple trees this year, and that plum needs to be repruned. But you really just want to shape the tree out to keep it nice and strong for years to come. Glad I could help. So a hydrangea, huh? So hydrangeas are you can more or less. So in general, the best time to prune is going to be that late winter going into spring, just before bud break. It's your best opportunity in general to prune pretty much anything. So like any of your berry varieties, your fruit trees, say shrubs that you have, that's going to be your best time to prune. There is another time called maintenance pruning that you can prune sometime in the middle of summer, but typically you want to do that in early summer before it gets too hot and the plant suffers a little bit. You know, you want, like I would say, at least for us, say like you're in West Virginia, I would say now is probably like this week going into next week is going to be your last time of pruning before you know, you're done for the rest of the year going into next year's spring. But so with hydrangeas, so say my finger is a hydrangea stalk going up. Really, I mean, if you want, you can hard prune it all the way back to where there's just a couple nodes down at the base. If it's getting too big, that's perfectly fine. All that's going to happen out of that is that it's just going to grow even more. So as long as you leave like a couple sections of where the nodes are, you can pretty much prune it as tight to the ground as you want. Just leave some growth. And again, late winter going into early spring before bud break is going to be your best time. Knock back aphids and nuisance insects in the garden and flower beds. The products I'm using, keep them away for a week or so. So here's your biggest problem as to why, you know, you're struggling with them. You need to have more plants that attract what feeds on the aphids. You know, the biggest problem is what you see. You see it a lot in early spring. You know, we had it actually really bad this year because we had warm spells, is that your pests are always going to wake up, breed, and multiply a lot more rapidly than your beneficial insects, such as lacewings, ladybugs, hoverflies, and that's always going to be your issue, because you're going to have those pests first. Depending on what you're treating with, you could actually be hurting yourself more, because you could also be killing your beneficial insects, which feed on the aphids. So that's always why, like, you want to give it just a little bit. Like, if you first see aphids, it's not really that big of a deal. A quick little jet of water will spray those aphids away. It usually kills a good decent amount of them. But if you start getting like really bad infestations, honestly, I'll just use my finger and crush them real quick. Your problem with insecticides and stuff is, unless you're doing it like super early in the morning or late, or getting towards the evening, it could affect pollinators. It can and will also affect your beneficial insects. What I would suggest, instead of just constantly fighting with insecticides, is planting things, not only planting perennials, but also planting annuals that benefit from that help to keep the aphids away. So like one big thing in our garden is like basil. Basil gets like really attacked by aphids early on, but aphids do not like garlic, so we plant our basil with garlic. Another two fantastic plants to also use in your garden, and you should use them like all the time, is marigolds and nasturtiums. Both of those attract hoverflies. They attract ladybirds or ladybugs, and those are going to be your main predators that eat the aphids. So instead of insecticides, what I would suggest is planting more flowers if you can, and if you don't have a bed to dedicate it, like a couple gallon pot with some flowers in it is going to attract those predators that eat the aphids. You're always going to remember though, is those pests multiply a lot faster than those beneficial insects. So if you're starting to see aphid issues, or if you're starting to see some sort of pest issue outside, those predators, those beneficial insects will be along, but it just takes a little bit for them to get there. So try that. If you are going to use insecticides, like I said, use it earlier in the morning before the pollinators come out, or towards night. I prefer to do it at night, because what little we spray on anything, there's no dew on the plants, and a lot of our insecticides are water soluble, so if we do them in the morning, it just washes off. But we haven't used them yet this year in our outdoor spaces. We haven't used them at all yet in our pollinator friendly section of perennials. But yeah, plant more flowers. Attract the bugs that eat the aphids. We all need an excuse to plant more flowers, so there's your excuse there. Oh, I got an aphid, got to plant more flowers, and that'll get you the bugs that you need to help with the bugs that you don't want. Got spinach done. Well, it's a. Ooh, there you go. Yeah, get them in the ground. It's never too late. We actually plant a couple different cycles. We actually plant a couple different. Thank you for the stars, Will. Woo, 99. Thank you, brother. But yeah, we actually plant a couple different cycles of nasturtiums and marigolds. You know, you see it. The great thing about them is that, you know, if you start them early, get them in the ground, they start growing. They'll kind of hit their peak and then die off. But if you come right back with more marigolds and more nasturtiums afterwards, then they just keep going. The one nice thing about continuing your cycle of plantings is you can, you know, you start your first planting, it's successful, harvest seed, and then use those seeds to keep going throughout the growing season. So you constantly have a fresh supply of marigolds, and you know, you can save some of that seed for next year in case you can't find the same marigolds you liked from last year. Woo! Gina, thank you. 99 stars. I appreciate it. Well, I'm trying to keep these to an hour, but if anyone has any other questions, I can certainly get to them. By all means, ask away. But if not, thank you everyone for coming out. Really appreciate it. Thank you again for the stars, Will, and thank you for the stars, Gina. I will see everyone next week. Thanks for coming out for our first one. I had a blast. Take care. Remember, gotta go, gotta grow. Peace.